Hello everybody and welcome. Today's program, it's all about meat.
Look, I just brought you a lovely New Zealand lamb.
Our favorite meat.
Yes, this is mine too.
Good.
Now, shall we have a look at the meat we've got on display?
Yes, indeed.
Good. Now, let's start by the shoulder, the pork shoulder. Now, the pork shoulder, you can do a lot with it. The knuckle first. Now, the knuckle can be either braised or boiled. Beautiful piece, underrated as well. Now, that little piece there in the shoulder, marvelous for terrine. You can do beautiful pâté with it. And again, nothing can replace that for usual pâté. On that part there, that a large piece there, which is really the main chunk of the shoulder there, you can use it. You've got what we call the palette.
The blade.
The blade, which is used with lentilles braised, beautiful again. And then that part there for stew, little goulash. Moving to that lovely ham, the leg of the pork, that everyone knows. It can be either boiled very gently for a few hours or served braised with a nice sauce. That is a lovely Sunday luncheon. Now moving to the lamb. What a beautiful lamb we've got there, starting from the top. At the top we've got the leg there, the gigot, which is beautiful. It can be even used sliced. And then moving into that little piece there. How do you call that piece again?
The flank.
The flank? The flank. Well, we boil it, normally either boil it or grill it, but it's got to be young animal. And there you go to the, apart from the saddle, then you move to the chop. Well, you've got the chop, which are the first côte première,
that's right,
where you've got no fat at all. Then you've got the côte découverte, where you've got a little fat. That's the one we prefer.
Yep.
And then you move down to the shoulder. And, of course, the neck. At the neck, you can do lovely stock, but most of all, and I think it should not be underrated again, you do beautiful stew with
beautiful.
It. And do beautiful stew. Navarre d'agneau.
Yeah. Go down to the beef.
Yes, that's beautiful beef.
Yes, there you have the ribs, which can either be cut up for one or two people or roasted as a whole. The loin of the beef with the fillet running right up to the rump.
And what about
on top of that, you have the flank there, which should not be roasted, lifted.
That's our favorite.
Makes a lovely stew.
Our favorite piece
or braised beef, or even beef burger. Here you got one of my favorite pieces of meat, which is the skirt, and just cut it very, very thinly, and then fry it with shallots.
Very cheap as well.
Very cheap.
And you do that on Sunday.
Very, very tasty.
Yes.
Here you've got a piece, which is the V-rump, which in this country you cut up with a steak. There you got a loin of veal. On the loin of veal you got the cutlets of veal, which can serve 2 people per bones, and then the loin of veal. The fillet of the veal, we've taken it out to use it into our mousse.
The meat.
You got the flank here, which can be used for a sauté of veal, a blanquette de veau.
And if you want to tenderize the meat, there is different way of doing so. One way will be the marinade. You can marinate your meat for 12 hours or 24 hours. You can do it hot marinade or cold marinade. And, of course, when you're cooking, that's very important, stew, do cook it very slowly. If you cook a meat too fast, especially a stew meat, then you will never get a tender meat. Now, shall we have a look at the knife? Let's have a look at the knife.
That's quite important thing. Huh?
All the tools we need to butcher.
Yep.
And good knife should be, first of all, good knife should be
good steel.
Steel. All the blades should be steel. I'm going to call them off gently.
You've got the saw. It's a bit big for an housewife, but you buy some which are not longer than that. But it's an essential tool.
The cleaver?
The cleaver, chopping bones and big pieces of
we use a fair amount of it. Yes.
Use a little art.
Little chopping knife for
general use
for cooking, which we use for chopping as well, but little bones. And then you've got the large chopping knife. That is a very useful knife. We use it a lot in the kitchen.
It is widely used.
Yes, widely used. Then you've got the carving knife, which is ham knife as well, used in dining room when the meat is cooked.
That's right.
Yes, and that is the bat. I know what you like to do with that,
yes,
but nowhere you will be able to do it.
It's a bit small for you.
Yes, I know, you know. You can be a danger. And that's the paring knife, little knife to take the nerve off chopped a little bit, just a tiny little pieces.
You've got that also.
Yes, the scissors for the poultry.
Yep.
And then, of course, you've got the boning knife. That's a lovely knife, but very dangerous, very dangerous. That's why you're going to use it.
So, am I going to use it?
Yes, you are.
On whom?
No, you're going to do as a recipe, a lovely recipe, a leg of lamb, and you're going to do it now. Move on. Shoo, shoo. Up. Off you go.
As you know, I've been commanded by dear brother to take you through the gigot en chevreuil, which is not unlike the hare in marinade, which we did last week. So first, let me take you quickly through your ingredient. They all juniper berry, crushed pepper, garlic, onions, carrots, bouquet garni, mushroom, wine. I've elected to use stock, lime stock, rather than using the trimming or middle neck. Red wine to finish up the sauce at the last minute. Clarified butter to cook the meat after it has been marinated. The butter to go into the sauce and the red currants to go into the sauce. Now I will proceed to show you how to debone, to take off the bone of inside the lamb. Use my saw. This is the little bit, everything is kept to go into the marinade. Take the excess of fat. Knife goes in and round, using your wrist, round and round until you get about here. An incision there. This is the most trickiest part of all. Here we go. Lamb, little string around it. Do it all over. I've got one here which is ready to go into the marinade. With all my little trimming, juniper, onion, garlic, carrots, bouquet garni, mushroom, wine. You don't need to use good wine for that, you know, just a good cooking wine will be absolutely perfect. You all on top. Bouquet garni deep in. Cling film. It is very, very important that it should be fully airtight. That will be ready to go into the fridge or in a larder in a cool place for at least 12 hours. It is very nice if you could find the time to turn it over 3 or 4 or 5 times. I have one here who has already been marinated for 12 hours. Dry. That is very important before you roast it, to dry it extremely well. The bone you take out as well, because we're going to use it in the roasting. You drain your marinade as the vegetables are going to be added while the lamb is roasting 20 minutes after it has been in the oven. The butter for the roasting. Now it needs to be very, very hot, because don't forget, it still is a little bit wet. So dry it very, very well. That will reduce about we're finishing with something which is very syrupy. That's nice and hot. Putting your leg in it. You bond round it. You brown it. And when it is nice and brown all over, with a golden color, you can hear it singing. Take you about 5 good minutes to brown it all over. It is nice and golden. I'm going to take it in the oven. It will stay there for 40 minutes. After 20 minutes, I'm going to put my vegetables to roast round it. I have put my stock into the marinade to reduce it. Magic, magic. I've got one which is already been cooked. So when you take it out from the oven, put it in a paper foil, wrap up nicely. That will keep it warm. And you can leave it very safely in a low oven for 25 minutes to half an hour, and it can only do it a lot of good. It in there. That's where the little bit of wine which you kept comes into play. Put your wine into it. Let it reduce a little bit. Add some of your marinade into it. Bring it to the boil. And when it is nicely boiled, scrape it all round. That's all the sugar of the meat. So make sure that you don't leave anything behind. As you see, it's got a lovely golden and shiny color. But it is nicely boiled. Strain it back into your marinade. And now again, also, that marinade should be scooped. I will add my stock into it with the vegetables, and also my red currant jelly, and reduce it to a glaze.
I've heard all about it before.
Oh, magic.
And since I was following you and in front, ahead of what you're doing,
You are always up
I
front.
finished that sauce, and we can see now the finished sauces, which is most beautiful.
Have you
Now,
done?
What
Well,
I like to add on the marinade, which I think is very important, is the marinade not only tenderize the meat, but it gives a lovely light, a gamey flavor into that leg of lamb, which I think you forgot to mention, brother.
Really?
Which is very important.
Did you put the butter into that?
I did.
I don't trust
did.
you too much.
No, I did put the butter. But on the other hand, one point which is, I think, very important is that, talking about the leg should be carved at the table.
Absolutely.
And that's important, as some people might start carving the leg here in the kitchen.
It's good.
Yes.
I'm surprised.
Well, I'm used to
not
sauces.
bad. Not bad.
Yes.
Not bad. Not bad. We will be doing more meat recipe later in the program. But now, in order to find out more about meat, and in particular offal, which we didn't want to bring it into the studio, but people like offal on the plate, but not in the studio, we're going to take you to a really good butcher. Butchery Lamartine is the best butcher in Britain. I know, I own part of it. Ah, bonjour Marco.
Bonjour chef.
Comment vas-tu?
Ah, très bien, merci.
Comment a été le marché ce matin?
Pas mal,
Oui?
pas mal.
Tell you what I'm looking for, Mark. I'm looking for 2 specialités. One for today and one for tomorrow,
Yes.
for the dining room. And I want 2 staff meal.
2 staff.
So, what have you got?
Got some nice lamb sweet bread.
Yes, this is the best time of the year, isn't it,
They are
Mark?
superb, chef. They are
Yeah.
superb. They're nice, round, big noir.
Yes, I think I'll take some lamb sweet bread, Mark, and blanch them and quickly fried.
That's what you
Little bed of noodle underneath, white sauce with a dry white wine. Be perfect. Now, what else have you got?
I bought some very, very nice calf heart. That's really nice, you know.
Yes, I'll grill it
yes.
and I'll put a bit of parsley.
Garlic.
With garlic, yes,
Yes,
they
yes,
love
with
that.
garlic, yes.
Now, what else can I have for staff, Mark?
For stuff, oxtail.
No, because firstly, it's very hot at the
Yes.
moment, and then it's the timing.
Yes.
I'm a bit short of staff, as I said to you.
I've got some very nice
Lamb's
lamb
liver.
liver, yes.
Yes, again, this
Look,
is the best time of the year.
nice
isn't
and
it?
white.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
No grain at all inside.
Yeah,
and
well, I might take that for tomorrow then.
really nice.
Give them the heart today.
brains.
Brains, yes, I'll have to think about
Calf
this
brains,
week. Give them
yes.
the brains. They love that. Now, what else?
I've got some beautiful lamb downstairs. I'll show you that later on. And
Yeah.
you can do the flank, maybe just, grill like that and that sort of...
Yes, what a good
Good
idea.
idea.
What a
Good
good idea. I'm in Mark's fridge to look at the lamb he bought this morning. Let me tell you a little bit about lamb, how to choose a lamb properly. Now first, it must have a good layer of fat, which is a sign of happiness. Not thin, not lean. Nice and bumpy on the leg, then a straight line down to the saddle, to the best stand and the shoulder. Then after that, the way to look, it's on the bone there, nice and shiny. You see the shine there. And the last test of all is to go inside the carcass and look at the line on the best stand of the lamb. Straight line, nice and pink. This is a lovely lamb. And I'm going to buy it and take it to the Gavroche. What a glorious bet. He's going to finish on a 3-star plate. It's not every lamb who can say that. This one will. We saw the lamb in the fridge, and we are going to have a look now at a different cut between the English and the French. As you know, the French follow the seam of the meat. Now, here you have a typical saddle of lamb, English way, which will go in the oven like that. Here you have a crown, English way, rack of lamb, and sewn up together there, and usually stuffed with force meat. A double rack of lamb put together called a guard. A shoulder of lamb, English way, ready to go into the oven. So if we start with the shoulder, you will see a shoulder of lamb done the French way, totally deboned, and put what we call en gigot, ready to be roasted. Saddle of lamb, totally deboned, and last of all, the little rack of lamb, what we would call the carré d'agneau, totally ready, deep-fatted a bit, and ready to be roasted. Now let's look at the beef, a typical rump steak, and what we would do with it the French way. As you can see, we'll go through the seam. We can even do it by hand. We will pull it out, and this piece, for example, will be breast beef, larded and cooked for several hours in the oven. That little bit there, that's the rump skirt, that will be fried as a steak. The fillet of beef will come out. We will finish with that. As you can see, no fat, only meat, pure meat. We can also cut it and do a lovely roast beef, ready to oven, no waste, nothing, all eatable. This is very much a difference between the French cut and the English cut, which is all a matter of taste.
Since we've been seeing a lot of offal at the Butchery Lamartine, I thought that it will be rather nice to do a dish which is made out of calf liver. We've got it in here. It's called calf liver with sweet corn. And the dishes which I'm doing today at that instant, it's for 4 persons. The main ingredient is the calf liver. I've got there the white one, which is a light sweet sauterne, which I choose a sweet one. The reason is that it's not to get, I want sauce which is very sweet and no sharpness at all. We've got chopped shallots, very finely chopped, or onions. You've got little sweet corn, which are tins, butter to finish the sauce, and of course, the veal stock, which is most important of all, which we're going to use in the sauce. Last minute, we will use as well the tomatoes into it and snip chives. That's all the ingredient we need. Now, while I'm going to heat up the beurre, the clarified butter, into the pan, I'm going to show you how, in case that you would prefer to use corn on the cob, fresh cob, how to take it off the cob. Now, they've been boiling for around 8 minutes. So you just let them stand as they are and cut it from the top like way. So that gives you a nice fresh corn instead of having a tins. Having said that, tins are very good quality as well. Now the butter is getting fairly hot. We want it extremely hot, as that dish must not cook more than 1 minute, around 30 seconds on each side. So what we do, we just salted the liver. take a small fork. Do make sure that your butter is very, very hot. And you've got to be very quick by trying to put them all together on the same time. Now you take a flexible palette to do that job, as sometimes the liver might stuck onto the bottom of the pan. That first one is ready. Turn it over. Some people are worried about the liver to be over pink, but don't worry about it, as when the liver is cooked, it always carry on cooking a little, so always undercook the liver. One thing to remember is that when you do cook liver, if you overcook it, it's like a piece of leather, and there is no really any pleasure of eating liver in that cases. Now, the first slice is cooked. You can touch it with your finger. It's nice and tender, and it's more than thick. It's still rare, but we're going to drain it into a little grill and keep it in the warm oven. The reason to keep it onto a grill is that any blood will drain down. But it's not very good at all to keep it and then they're sogging into a plate. The sauce is very simple, but like most of our recipe, it does need different stages and it does need reduction. So to cut down the timing, we're going to go through stages without having to wait for it. Pour off all but about 1 teaspoon of buttery juice from the pan the liver was in. Add the chopped shallots, fry gently for 2 minutes, then cover and cook for a further 2 minutes. Add the white wine, the sauteed white wine, and reduce by half, which will take about 2 to 3 minutes. And cover and stir in the veal stock. Continue to boil until it is reduced by half to a slightly syrupy consistency, which will take about 2 to 3 minutes. Add the sweet corn, fresh or tinned. Stir in the diced tomatoes, which are cut in lovely little lozenges. And then add the little butter, which gives the shine into the sauce. Taste and season with salt and freshly ground pepper, if necessary, to your own taste, and quickly pour the sauce over the liver, scatter with the little snip, chives, and serve immediately.
We're going to show you the lime with basil. I have sweated my shallots, or you can use onion with butter. I'm going to add my chopped mushroom, duxelles de champignon, reduce it until the liquid which comes out of the mushroom is reduced. While that is cooking, I'm going to take you to the ingredients which is needed to do the dish. Lamb cutlets, sweated shallots or onion, mushroom chopped up finely, cream to be added after that is reduced, diced ham. To cook the lamb and for the sauce, clarified butter, white wine, lime stock, tomato which have been diced. You don't need to dice them, but they look more pretty. You can chop them. Basil which have been sizzled, and watercress for the garnish. That is nearly pretty ready. As you can see, there's hardly any water content left in there. It has evaporated. I'm looking here not for a sauce, but sort of a very light puree, like a mashed potatoes. I'm adding my cream, quick action. Bring it to the bowl rapidly. This is something which you can prepare if you have a dinner party in advance of your dinner party. And just keep it on the side of the stove. That is bring to the bowl pepper, salt, and I'm going to add my mushroom into it. This sits nicely and syrupy. Ham. Don't let it boil too long. Taste it. You should always taste what you do. I'm happy with it.
I'm pleased to know that you're happy with yourself, brother.
That looks good.
Your garnish is done. Let me explain to you what I've done with the lamb chop. I cooked down and finished the sauce while you were doing your garnish.
Thank you.
Going through the stage of cooking the lamb chops, I've used a pan with a clarified butter, pan-fried the chops for 2 or 3 minutes, reserve them onto a grill as they are, just to drain them, get the fat off the pan, deglaze the pan with the white wine, and then add the lamb stock. Let it reduce to a syrupy consistency. Add the basilic, the fresh basilic, the little tomatoes diced, which were cut in little lozenge, and another butter. And now we've got the sauce, which is the sauce which we are going to use. I mean, are you pleased with the consistency?
I'm very pleased with the look of it, yeah.
Now, I've seasoned it, but would you like to taste it?
I'd love to taste it, Michel.
And I've got one question for you.
Yes?
Yes? Why do you always talk about onions? Do you come from Brittany?
No, I do not, Michel. I was born in Burgundy, but mother went on holiday very often in Burgundy.
Well,
but that's another matter.
then I like to make the point that shallots are much better, if I may say, than onions. So if you do not have shallots, do use onion, but as a general rule, shallots is much more delicate, so please, can we mention shallots more often than onions?
Yes.
Now, since we've got all the ingredients ready, let's get all together, everything onto the plate. We've got the watercress ready and
To
dressing
garnish.
our dish.
Yep.
So that will be for the lunch hop with basilic.
Lovely.
Thank you. Does it mean that we're moving to deep water for next week?
Next week, we're on fish.
We're on fish.
We're on fish.
And the meat is over.
And the meat is over. And don't forget, cooking is like love. You don't have to be French to be good at it. So enjoy it, all of you. Happy cooking.
Britain is an island, and yet we're not all knowledgeable about fish, especially on how to choose the fish. What I mean is that how fresh they are. What are we looking for?
What is terribly important, we are surrounded here by lots of fish, and I can't smell fish. I can only smell the sea.
That's good news.
It is good news.
Can't agree more.
You know, you said the fish
So
decay.
the smell.
The smell.
Smell is good. You must
Yes.
have a good smell.
You smell the sea.
Of the sea. Yes. So that's one point. Now, when I look at the fish, I mean, I like to see the eyes of the fish looking at me, staring at me. The eyes must be sharp and clear, and we can see it. I mean, it's most beautiful. Those fish are beautifully fresh. Now, the gill, when we look at the gill must be a beautiful pink and going to red. I mean, they all varies in color. But if we look at that one, that's a beautiful deep red. And they must be bouncy almost, firm.
Yes. Well,
firm. They don't burn really.
No.
So that's really what we look for, fish. I mean, is there anything else which you will look for when you choose a fish?
Well, obviously, if you take the salmon, you have now most of the market, certainly on the smoke side of the salmon, but also on the fresh, is farm salmon. Now, the farm salmon has done something good for people like me who was a very keen angler, is that make it not commercially viable for people to poach salmon due to the drop in the price of salmon. So we are seeing back into our rivers a lot of wild salmon. The difference between those farm salmon and the wild salmon is as follows. This is a wild salmon, that's a wild carp salmon. You can see that there's a little sea lice there, so it has entered the river not more than 8 days, I would have thought. It's shiny, it's lean, but it doesn't look mean, but it's longly elongated. This is a fish who has been working all his life and has been working his way upriver.
Full of muscles.
Now, if you take a farm salmon, much wider, darker color, and the texture, it is softer. It doesn't say that the taste is no good, far from it, but obviously there's a difference in taste and there's a slight difference into the price of it.
Now, what about the fruits? Are you in favor of using fresh fruit with fish?
Well, acid will always bring the flavor back of fish. We often serve a lemon with a Dover sole, which is grilled.
Yes.
So I'm certainly in favor of matching the acidity of a fruit into the white of a fish or the pink of a fish.
I personally love a segment of a tangerine with a piece of just a light piece, a small piece of fresh salmon and a malted butter. I think the combination is offsetting a bit of the richness of the salmon, which is very fat from time to time. And as far as the grapefruit's concerned, you know, we're doing a dish from time to time, you and I, we both agree there, very much so, with a brill. And we've got a beautiful brill there, which is stuffed with the mousse, and then you've got segment of grapefruit in it. There is no doubt that fish which are caught, which come from the North Sea, meaning really around Britain, are the best fish you can find in the world. I mean, let me just finish, please. No, let me finish. As you see, you've got the texture of the fish. It's much better than any other sea. Right, now it's your turn. You tell me.
Well, you know, it's a well-known fact. You've traveled to Southend and you've been to Aberdeen, but you haven't gone any farther than that. There are other fish all around the world in hot sea, which are equally good and are very, very different in texture.
Softer.
But softer in texture, but who are also supreme in their taste.
Well, it's not my cup of tea.
It is totally different. It is not what you like.
No, certainly not, and that's not what people who love about fish would prefer.
So you travel with your fish?
I travel with my fish.
Yes, right.
You're quite right, in fact. How do you know that?
You travel with your fish?
Yes, I do. Have a look at those beautiful...
Now we're going to be filleting, won't we? I'm going to fillet a salmon. And Michel, what are you going to fillet?
When you've done, you're going to do
What are you going to fillet, Michel?
I'm looking at my sole. I'm going to fillet a brill, flat fish.
So I'm going to fillet a round fish, which is a salmon.
They must be beautiful firm. I mean, it's important to say they're firm.
They are. And then my knife is more flexible than yours. Yours
change your
to be...
specs.
Oh, yes, for fish. When I do fish, I need to have more powerful specs.
Have you got different specs for different dishes or preparation in cooking?
That's none of your business,
I'm
Michel.
sorry.
Let's get on with the fish.
Let's talk about the knife first. Would you mind?
I have already. I said more flexible mine, yours are.
Mine is firm.
I start to the head. I mean, what he's doing is very easy. It's a flat fish.
Well, I'm doing the outside.
Mine is far more precise.
I'm cutting all around the edge very gently.
You follow right up to the tail and then put up with your finger. The reference is the dorsal fin, right in the middle of it.
Well, what you're doing is most important. The cutting, all the...
Yes, absolutely.
And then you make your way in very gently.
I mean, at the speed he is going, we'll be there tomorrow. Well, rest assured.
I'm not pushed by time.
Aren't you?
I'm not paid by heart. I'm paid by fish.
I see.
I'm intending to do only one. I can't understand why.
Mine is nearly finished.
I still can't understand why you should bother about giving, really, your fish to be filleted by the fishmonger. I mean, it's so easy with Albert. You call on him anytime, he will fillet
I'll be delighted to oblige.
No, it's fairly easy to fillet a fish.
That's my fish.
That's beautiful.
And then you got the bones there.
Yes.
I usually do it by hand, but you can use that little gadget.
I'm following the middle, right in the middle.
While he's following the middle, I'm going to skin my fish. Knife underneath.
Cut it nicely.
Pull it through.
And I give myself a rest.
That easy. I have nearly finished.
It's a farm salmon. It's a bit soft.
It is a farm salmon. Yeah. Well, I did say so at the beginning.
No, but it is a bit soft. The wild salmon will be firmer and
yes,
much firmer. You've done a good job. I mean, there is little meat left on your bone.
Too bad, and all those little bits you keep very preciously.
Now, I've cut my fish all around the edges. Now I'm filleting it. So my knife is a bit firmer, less flexible than Albert's knife. I'm just taking the fillet away, holding with my thumb, as you can see, making my way in, gently, back again on the top, and all along the fish all the time. That's it.
God, you're a great talker, brother.
Well, I've got to do something. I mean, God, you're speeding
I
on
could have
that.
done 10 salmon by the time you do a turbot.
But you look at your mess. Look at mine. Now, the skin. Skin done. The good thing about filleting fish and doing it yourself, you see, I'm moving my knife, not like he does. As it's a very hard skin, so I've got to move my knife. Normally, you don't. You pull the skin away. That's it. All done, finished.
Shall we go and do the fish stock?
Yes, well,
now?
what we do, we'll take those bones and we do our fish stock.
Absolutely.
Let's do that. The basis of all good cooking is the stock. Fish is no different. You must have a good fish stock. It is simple and economic, particularly if you have a deep freeze, a good freezer. There is only one problem with stock. Its stages require a bit of cooking. So to see every stages without the cooking in between, Albert and I are going to make this fish stock together, and then we might do something else, another stock.
It is very easy to do, and yet, as it is so important for future stage of cooking, sauces and aspic, it requires a lot of attention. So let's walk through the basic ingredient. The difference of the stock will differ whether you use dorsal bones, turbot bones, place bones. Here, the turbot, there's a lot of gelatin into it, so it's going to be a strong stock. So first, clean up your fish properly, take the gill out, extract the eyes. That's important because in the eyes there's a black ink which will spoil the stock.
And chop
it. Then into cold water for at least 4 hours. Drain it when you're ready to cook it into a colander. The basic ingredient of the stock is a little bit of butter, which can be replaced by oil, leeks, onion chopped up, mushroom chopped up, bouquet garni, white wine, water. You simmer gently, which we have, those 3 ingredients with the butter. Here.
Nice and sweated.
Nice and sweated.
Just 2 or 3
about
minutes.
3 or 4 minutes.
Yes.
When it is sweated, your bones, which have been dry up.
Why don't you just show how they will look?
Lovely.
That's how they should
Nicely
look.
dry.
Beautiful and white.
They have to be nice and dry.
Yes.
Into there, tossed up together for a few minutes.
You're doing it all.
Yes, I'm doing it all. I'm so good at it. For a few minutes. After you've done that, you add your white wine. Let it simmer for 2 or 3 minutes.
Yes.
And then add your water and your bouquet garni on the side, tied up there. Bring it to the boil quickly. The quicker, the better. When it is boiling, adjust your gas or your electric and let it simmer gently for no more than 20 minutes. And that is important.
That's very important.
Because if you let it boil all over and cook it longer, you will have what one called a very fishy stock.
And you skim it.
And you skim it as you go along.
And the beauty of that is that when you sift it, when you passed it through the muslin, which we're going to show, then you get really something which you can reduce and put on ice.
So after that, in through the muslin.
I'm going to show you.
And that's it. You have a nice stock.
A little. Now, can we have? That's how you go through it. Muslin.
That's it.
And see.
I believe you're going to do your nage now.
No. Yes, but
we're going in together.
I'm doing it alone, but I like to. You should
and
show
that's the finishing
quickly how the texture is, so it can be even for an aspic. You see.
Yep.
That's when it's cold and it's been in the fridge. It can be reduced and placed into the deep freeze compartment.
That's right.
Well, I've done enough. I've seen you working. I like to show how I'm making my nage now.
Lovely.
As that was so painless for me anyway, I'll do an encore. A nage is something which can be used for shellfish or poaching fish. However, if you're using it for shellfish and you want to have a lovely liquid by reducing it, you've got to remember not to add so much salt. And in fact, you can omit the salt and add it at the last minute. Now, let's have a look at the ingredient which you need for the nage. Onions, leeks, celery stick, carrots, and fennels. If if you're lucky enough, you can have a nice machine, a robot coupe, that slice your vegetable very quickly and save you time. Or then you use a chopping knife, a good chopping knife. Or if you've got a good brother like I've got, well, he's doing it all for you and he's being carried away. That's obvious. I've got enough for 10 times what I'm doing. Now, those veg, when you chop them very finely, slice them, you just add butter into your pan. You heat up a pan, add some butter into it, melt it, add the vegetable one by one, the leeks, the onions, and the fennels. You've got to stir it gently and let it sweat, cover for a good 10 minutes. So that's done. So let's say it has been sweated for 10 minutes. It's time to add the vinegar, white wine vinegar. The white wine, the water, little garlic, pepper, which I've wrapped into a muslin, the bouquet garni, and then you just let it boil. Now, when it's on the boiling point, that should take 5 minutes, you let it cook for 10 minutes, and then you've got a delightful nage. Now, a nage is much more delicate than a fish stock, especially since I've been doing that nage, and Albert's been doing the fish stock. Believe me, what I do is always more delicate than what he does. Now, the fish stocks was one thing, the nage is another thing, as I was saying. Now, what you should do is through the sieve goes the nage. And you look at it, very light, very clear, full flavor of the vegetable. That will be a base for a lovely sauce. And in fact, it can be marvelous for poaching the fish which we filleted a few minutes ago. Egg whiting with breadcrumb and Parmesan cheese. One of the nicest dishes you can do and very simple to prepare and not costly at all. We've got beautiful fish there, which have just been brought from the market. You can see beautifully and fresh, which I'm going to now move as we had a quick look at them and move into the stage that some of them have been already cleaned. We've got 4 other fish there. The fin has been cut there and on the back. And what you want to do is to fillet the fish on both sides. One side has been done. I'm now doing the other side of the fish. We're going to cut the bone near the head and near the tail, so we'll be able to remove the fish bone from the fish, as we want the fish to hold together, and we don't want to get the fillet apart. That's been done. So the knife is used there. Cut it along. Same there. Cut near the head. Along there. That's it. That's a whiting fillet. So that's what you should get. Now, that's your fish, how it's been cleaned. Now, the gill has been moved, as I told you. So that's for the whiting, how they should be prepared. Now, I've got 4 there which have been placed into a baking sheet, which has been buttered with a little bit of butter there and placed there onto the baking sheet. Little butter on the top as well. Now, they're ready to go into the oven. What we want to do now is to spread the Parmesan and the breadcrumb, which we mix together, and that's what we get. So what you do, you just, first of all, just a little pepper, a little bit of the salt, very little. So what you do, you sprinkle the mixing of the breadcrumb and the Parmesan on the top of the whiting evenly, and that is ready to go in the oven. Now I'm going to make the sauce. Here we are. So that's ready. Keep it there for a second. Now, the sauce. You need few fresh tomatoes, cut in pieces, place into the blender, liquidize it there for a few minutes, then into a pan which you reduce up to around 2/3, so you get a nice puree, fairly strong, strain it into another pan, and you get that texture, which is a nice, beautiful, strong puree of fresh tomatoes. At that stage, put it back into the heat, and then it's time to use the cream. A little cream, which you add into it. Then, with a whisk, you whisk up your butter, little knob of butter, of which you've got left. And that gives you a sauce, which is a nice, light, creamy sauce, which you can keep on the bain-marie until you're having your meal. And if it is, but the consistency is, the sauce is a bit thick, then you can always use a bit of fish stock. Just pinch some from Albert a few minutes ago, so I'm all right now. Now the texture, as it's always interesting to see how light and delicate that sauce can be. You can flavor it as well with herbs if you want to. And the tomatoes, it's got a very nice flavor. You don't eat herbs, but if you do want to, you can add a little bit of fresh snip basil into it. That's add a little touch into the dish, which can be marvelous. Now, whiting should go now in the oven, and they should be there for 7 to 8 minutes in a hot oven.
Salmon in green coat. A lovely dish, easy to done, can be prepared way in advance of your guests arriving, giving you a lot of time to spend with them with a glass of bubbly. Let's go to the basic ingredient. Salmon, leaves of spinach which have been blanched. That's the main dish. The garnish, mussel, which have been cooked with what we've done before, the nage, the sauce, mushroom, shallots, cream, and butter. So the first thing to do, little salt on your salmon, pepper, and then you wrap it up into your leaf of spinach. You put it in the fridge and you forget about it, because that's the last thing you're going to do about 5 minutes prior of serving it. You cook your mussel, which I've done, strain them. Your mushroom, shallots, the juice of the liquor of the mussel into it. You reduce it to the consistency of a syrup, and when it is nicely reduced, pass it in to a chinois. Add the cream to it, which I just done, and your butter. And 5 minutes prior of serving the salmon, when you're sitting for the first course, you put it into your steamer. To the finished article, which is there. I will open one up, and when you dish it up, little bit of clarified butter to give it a nice gloss. And that's how it should look like. Beautiful and moist. Dead easy dish to do.
Margarite of salmon and turbot. In this recipe, I'm going to leave Albert doing the cooking. I'm going to do the arty bit. Now, for the margarite, I need a little fillet of salmon, a fillet of turbot, and I'm going to put one together so you'll see how to put the daisy together. Now, I'm cutting long strip of the salmon, doing exactly the same with the turbot, thin long strip of turbot.
That's the tail of your salmon, Michel, huh?
It is.
Yeah.
Well, you better keep the middle part for other dish.
That's right.
Like, in fact, what you did, which was the beautiful steamed spinach. Now, what you need is a soft cardboard pieces, square. You wrapped it into a piece of alcohol foil, and you brush it with a little melted butter.
You can do that way in advance too.
Oh, everything, in fact,
the
can be done.
sauce, absolutely everything
Yeah.
can be way
What
in
I like
advance.
in that dish as well is that anything can be done in advance.
So it leaves you more time to spend with your guests.
Little salt, little pepper. Yeah. And then you start by the outside of the daisy. Now you want to do a nice little circle. Yeah. So you need 6 to 8 pieces altogether to make your daisy.
Yeah, it's very effective on the plate.
It is.
Isn't it?
You've got lovely
Very
colors, that
effective.
pink and white. There we are. So inside, again, now we are on the turbot, the white color. Now we'll move to the salmon, back to the salmon. There we are. Now we backed into the white fish, turbot again. And to finish, I'm just going to take a tiny little piece of salmon. Careful your fingers.
Yes, yes,
you
you're
know,
dangerous
I've done
with
it
your knife.
before.
No,
Then
no,
you
you
do
haven't.
like a little roses, which you put right in the middle. And that's a nice little daisy. So put it back a little bit, press it so it will hold nicely, pepper and salt, and that's going in the oven in a second with the adders, which I've just done a minute before, into a baking sheet which has been lightly buttered. There. And fish stock has been poured onto it. Again, a bit more pepper and salt. It does need to be nicely seasoned. Now, grease proof pepper, which I've buttered, cover it nicely, and it goes in the oven for 3 minutes.
Well, while it goes in the oven,
Yes.
I'll take you through the sauce.
Please
so
do.
The main ingredient of your sauce, some butter, on which I'm going to put into a warm saucepan.
I'm going to get my garnish ready. during
My
that time.
shallots into it. Mushroom, which have been roughly diced. Little bits and pieces of fish, which are leftovers. And I'm going to let it sizzle gently for a few minutes.
I like the smell of it.
Yeah.
The mushroom and the shallots together. It's lovely. You're using champagne again.
Oh, yes.
You can use sparkling white wine if you want
You
to.
certainly can,
Yes.
or dry white wine.
As you've got to bear in mind the cost of
Of course,
dishes.
yes.
But let's say it's Sunday and we're using champagne. Good.
Now, when that is nicely sweated, I'm going to add a sprinkle of champagne, fish stock, looks good, huh?
It does. Does.
Turn it well together, and I'm going to let it reduce until I get into that. And to that,
Let's have another look at it.
See, it's
You
like a syrup.
Yeah, take it. That's
but
it.
leave it to me.
Well, you see, you
I
do
didn't-
things too quickly.
I did not interfere when you
No,
were
but
doing
let's
your
show
margarite.
a bit better.
So there you
That's
are.
Better. So it's
It's
like
very
a gooey.
syrupy.
That's
That's
it.
right.
Eh?
Let me do the talking. And then into it, add the cream, bring it to the boil, and when it is boiling, with that, put it into a clean saucepan, which I got here,
And you've got your
and
sauce.
into that, I've added my cream, I've added my butter, slowly, without let it boil, and at the last minute, I've added my whipped cream. Now, I finished up
Now, can I just...
with the sauce, which is coating. Beautifully
I
mashed
wanted to ask you that, in fact.
It's
That's the
coating
proof
beautiful.
of a lovely sauce. Look.
And it is golden.
Ah, look.
Beautiful and shiny.
You don't do that very often. No, your sauces are always good. Now, I think I ought to get my fish, Albert.
Get your
Yes.
margarite out.
I think they're cooked, Albert. They're quick. I mean, they cook very quickly. They normally take around 3 minutes to cook, and I like my fish lightly undercooked.
Well, it's still cooking
Good.
after you're taking it out of the oven.
Yeah, especially when
Yeah,
the
they look
fish
good.
Yeah, do they? Good. So, got my little garnish there. Your sauce is finished. You're happy with it? Ah, look at that.
Very happy
Yes.
with that.
Look at that. Yeah. What we need there is to take the... that's very... You've got to do that operation very delicately. You take your margarite of salmon with a large palette. What I call a palette is sliding. And then you make sure there is no excess of liquid. So you hold it with your hand. You take it in your other hand like that. It's hot but not burning, I promise you. Then it goes on the plate. That's the margarite, that's one. Then you place your little carrots, which have been blanched, lightly cooked, in fact. They've been lightly cooked. Then you've got the courgette, the baby courgette, which are done exactly the same, but cooked less longer, as courgettes are very quickly cooked. So there's that. And in between, a little cucumber, but the cucumber are raw. May I have the sauce, Albert?
Here it is, Michel.
That is supposed, the plates are supposed to go in the oven now for 30 seconds, just to keep it hot. But since I'd like to take a little...
A larger spoon?
Yes, thank you, Albert. Now, look at that beautiful sauce. That's a lovely dish. A little sauce in between. You can see that the strip of cucumber are not sinking into the sauce. That's why I like them to be like that. Here we are.
Little chevron on top?
Little chevron on the top of the daisy.
Does look good.
Yeah, it does. A few little dice of tomatoes. Now, that's one of our most successful dishes at the Waterside Inn. People love it. People love it.
I'm not surprised.
And about next week, now we will see you on the shellfish. Albert, you will cook your mussels, amongst other things, of course. Oh, well, I'm looking forward for that.
Well, it is time to wish you goodbye. Bon appétit.
And happy cooking.
Happy eating. And happy cooking. Goodbye, everybody.